Europe's premier research lab, CERN, is celebrating its 60th birthday and the foundation of an establishment that in many ways drew up the blueprint for European cooperation. CERN's list of successes goes from inventing touchscreens, medical imaging and the internet to the more esoteric pure physics most people normally associate with CERN and its huge arrays of particle accelerators and colliders. General Director Rolf Höhe began the ceremonies under the banner 60 Years of Science for Peace, and then followed music composed specially for the occasion by a CERN scientist, interpreting the recorded data from the LHC Higgs boson experiments.
It's amazing to see how scientists and engineers from countries which are normally not at ease with each other can work together, can speak with each other, can celebrate with each other. And I think that should be a model for everybody.
But with the Higgs boson all but nailed, where next for CERN? What are its future fields of study?
With the famous Higgs boson, we have just closed our standard model, which merely describes 5% of the universe. 95% of the universe are dark matter, dark energy. To my mind, it's high time to enter into the dark universe, and that would be one of the major goals for the near future.
For the past 60 years, CERN has not only revolutionized our scientific knowledge, but it's also created successful models of coexistence between different cultures and goal sharing.
It's something, it's called CERN. It makes me very concerned. C-E-R-N. The Hadron, I think it's pronounced, Hadron Collider. Okay? It's turned on 2 days from today, so when you watch the show, it's already on, unless they have a breakdown. Do you want to tell the people what it is? I have pictures. There's one. There it is on the screen.
Yeah.
This is the biggest machine in the world. How many until today did not know about this? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Come on. That's almost 100%. 99% of this audience never heard of this. This is the biggest machine ever made in the world in history. I believe it's 17 miles long. It's in France and Switzerland. If you see a map, it's the map, it's a circle.
It would be almost 5 miles across.
And the reason they buried it under the ground is because they might have an oops. And you know, back when we were testing nuclear warheads, we'd take them deep down underneath the earth because you wouldn't want to blow one of these up on the surface of the earth, right?
Right.
I'm curious how they got permission to dig that many miles under France and under Switzerland. And this is what the headline, I don't know if it's just this week, I think. This is the headline. Stephen Hawking, he called it the God particle could destroy the universe. He keeps warning. He's supposed to be one of the most brilliant minds ever in history. And he keeps warning that this, he calls it God particles. Do you understand this at all?
Well,
I don't.
The Higgs boson is traditionally called the God particle, and part of what they want to do with the collider, it's not the only thing they're doing there, is they want to see if they can discover the Higgs boson, or the God particle. Essentially, we Christians would say they're looking for how God holds everything together. That's why they call it the God particle.
Well, I read where it's what you're made up of, and what all matter, I guess, is made up of.
That's exactly right. It's what we're made up of. It's also what's holding us together. They're trying to find Jesus, but they don't want to find Jesus. So they're trying to find what is it that holds all matter together. That's one of the things they're looking for. What CERN does, that big circle, it accelerates particles in that big circle around and around and around and around until they're traveling at just enormous velocity, and then they collide these particles together. And in that moment, it creates a moment that they think is kind of how the Big Bang started the whole universe. That's the whole purpose behind it. However, they also believe that there are parallel realities around us, other dimensions, and there could be other intelligence there. Another thing we Christians already know, right? Why not just come and ask us? You don't need to build a collider. However, there's a reason God put them on the other side of that veil, and you might not want to open the door.
Oh.
And here's the thing. Their own director of CERN has gave interviews to the British press in which he admits that's what they're trying to do. They want to open a door to another dimension. And he said, when we open this door, he said, something might come through it into our reality, or he said, we might send something through it into their reality. You can look that up. It's in the British press. Where the CERN was built, this is St. Genus Powili. That's the name of the township. But in ancient days, guess what it was called? It was called Apolliacum. It was literally a temple to the god Apollo, because they believed that's the gateway to the underworld.
I saw a goddess. And I was looking at all these pictures. That's her.
Shiva. Actually, they built, they have the god, the Hindu god of destruction that destroys at the molecular level, is right out in front of the offices of CERN, and it's dedicated to Shiva.
I'm going to put it on the screen. You'll show it.
It's so
because I've seen it, and I said, this is a false god. What in the...
Hey there everyone, I'm at CERN in Geneva. Now CERN's famous for like the Large Hadron Collider and all that physics, but it's also famous for something else, which I'm sure a lot of you are thinking of. And just in there is a really cool sort of piece of history. Come and follow me and I'll show you. Here we go, where the web was born. So basically, this corridor is where the World Wide Web was developed. Show them the corridor.
If you were starting out now, did I read somewhere that you said if you were 19 you wouldn't go into the music business?
I think that's probably quite right. I think I'd probably just be a fan and a collector of records.
What would you do?
I wanted to be a musician because it seemed rebellious, it seemed subversive. It felt like one could affect change to a form. It was very hard to hear music when I was younger, you know. When I was really young, you had to tune into AFN radio to hear the American records. There was no MTV, and it wasn't sort of wall-to-wall blanket music. And so therefore it had a kind of a call to arms kind of feeling to it. Is that this is the thing that will change things. This is a dead, dodgy occupation to have. It's still, produced signs of horror from people if you said, I'm in rock and roll. It was, my goodness. Now it's a career opportunity. And the internet is now, carries the flag of being subversive and possibly rebellious and chaotic, nihilistic and... Oh, yes, it is. Forget about the Microsoft element. The monopolies do not have a monopoly, maybe on programs.
What you like about the what you like about it is the fact that anyone can say anything or do anything.
From my standpoint, from where I am, because of by virtue of the fact that I am a pop singer and writer, I really embrace the idea that there's a new demystification process going on between the artist and the audience. I think when you look back at, say, this last decade, there hasn't really been one single entity, artist or group, that have personified or become the brand name for the 90s. It was starting to fade a little in the 80s, and in the 70s there were still definite artists, in the 60s there were the Beatles and the Hendrix, and in the 50s there was Presley. Now it's subgroups and genres. It's hip-hop, it's girl power. It's a communal kind of thing. It's about the community. It's becoming more and more about the audience, because the point of having somebody who led the forces has disappeared because the vocabulary of rock is too well known. It's a currency that is not, it's not devoid of meaning anymore, but it's certainly only a conveyor of information now. It's not a conveyor of rebellion. And the internet has taken on that, as I say. And so I find that a terribly exciting area. So from my standpoint, being an artist, I like to see what the new construction is between artist and audience. There is a breakdown. There's personified, I think, by the rave culture of the last few years, where the audience is at least as important as whoever is playing at the rave. It's almost like the artist is to accompany the audience and what the audience are doing. And that feeling is very much permeating music and permeating the internet.
But what is it specifically about the internet? I mean, anybody can say anything. And it all adds up to what? I mean, it seems to me there's nothing cohesive about it in the way that there was something cohesive about the the youth revolution in music.
Oh, but absolutely. And because I think that we, at the time, up until at least the mid-70s, really felt that we were still living under the, in the guise of a single and absolute created society where there were known truths and known lies, and there was no kind of duplicity or pluralism about the things that we believed in. That started to break down rapidly in the 70s, and the idea of a duality in the way that we live. There are always 2, 3, 4, 5 sides to every question. That the singularity disappeared. And that, I believe, has produced such a medium as the internet, which absolutely establishes and shows us that we are living in total fragmentation.
You don't think that some of the claims being made for it are hugely exaggerated? I mean, when the telephone was invented, people made amazing claims.
I know,
the president, for example.
The president at the time, when it was first invented, he was outrageous. He said he foresaw the day in the future when every town in America would have a telephone. Now how dare he claim like that? Absolute bullshit. No, you see, I don't agree. I think the internet, I don't think we've even seen the tip of the iceberg. I think the potential of what the internet is going to do to society, both good and bad, is unimaginable. I think we're actually on the cusp of something exhilarating and terrifying.
It's just a tool, though, isn't it?
No, it's not. No. No, it's an alien life form.
What do you think? I mean,
Eric Schmidt, Google's executive chairman, made an interesting statement that is raising a few eyebrows. Take a listen.
I would answer very simply that the internet will disappear. Yeah. The internet will there'll be so many IP addresses because of IPv6, so many devices, sensors, things that you're wearing, things that you're interacting with, that you won't even sense it. It'll be part of your presence all the time.
You'll probably see all kinds of articles posted by RT, Hollywood Reporter, several other news outlets running with this headline that Google chairman Eric Schmidt said the internet will disappear. Well, I know it's a catchy headline, but that's really not what he's talking about, literally disappearing. What he's talking about is actually that the internet is going to change. If you read some of the things he said specifically, you'll get a better grasp of what he's talking about. For example, he said, quote, "There will be so many IP addresses, so many devices, sensors, things that you're wearing, things that you're interacting with, that you won't even sense it." And he continues, he says, "It will be part of your presence all the time. Imagine you walk into a room and the room is dynamic and with your permission and all of that." Interesting, he says that. "You are interacting with the things going on in the room. A highly personalized, highly interactive, and very, very interesting world emerges."